I'm so scared of people rejecting me. I will either not say anything and stand in the corner, or I share too much because I'm so nervous about you rejecting me. I'm just going to make you reject me from the beginning, so I don't have to worry about it anymore.
Welcome to Velvet Ventures,
where we talk about life, marriage, and the pursuit of entrepreneurship.
I'm Ben.
And I'm Channing. This episode is brought to you by Mingle Business Networking. Are you ready to expand your business network and make meaningful connections? Look no further than Mingle Business Network. And we can personally say how great of a benefit they are, especially for small businesses. We attend them personally. In fact, we even lead a few of the chapters, so we hope to see you there. For more information about Mix and Mingle, you can check out the link below this episode. So you like to research and analyze.
Okay.
And I much more jump in and I'll figure it out.
Yeah. This is true.
So, like the podcast, for instance, has already caused a few, I wouldn't say arguments, disagreements, for sure.
Sure.
Differing viewpoints.
Yeah.
Because for me, like, I found cheap microphones and just figured that we had enough smart equipment that we could figure out how to make it work.
Yeah.
And I've edited 2 podcasts when I worked at that financial.
Mm-hmm.
And so I used to edit their radio broadcast.
Yeah.
So I just figured technology couldn't have changed much in 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
6 years. And basically, once you said, yeah, sounds like a good idea, I took that as full-blown, like, we have a podcast now. What should we name it?
It's kind of like the way that I attribute your decision-making sometimes is, this is a bad example, but it's like when 2 people decide, let's have a kid, and the other one just says, awesome, I've already found us a new house that has another bedroom. I've already named it. I've got the room painted.
I know what college they're going to.
I've already ordered all their clothes. I've ordered diapers. I've gotten this. I've gotten that. And the other person is just over here going,
I meant in 5 years.
I just meant, like, I like the idea of it. And I want to do it someday. Not, I can already feel it. You know? And so, that's a pretty fair representation of our styles in taking something and running with it. Yeah.
Well, and I think we both, in our own ways, frustrate each other probably just as much. Like, you frustrate me just at the same level as I frustrate you.
That's what she means.
And there's sometimes when it's almost like we're in a canyon, but you're at one end and I'm at the other. And so by the time the word is getting to you, it's just a faint whisper, so you don't understand it. And the same for your end. Because there's times when, like the first time that we recorded. So it's like our pre-launch episode, because it's where we were kind of working out all the bugs and figuring out where to put the camera, where to put the camera, how the lights, and how close to sit to the microphones, and so the sound's not the best quality on that. And I had already found, like, here's a software that's free, this is how I'm going to edit it, and I'm just going to figure out how it works, even though it's not the ideal look. Like, I don't like the way it looks. And so I already figured that out, put it into iMovie, and, like, had the first episode done. And then the next morning, you woke up, and you were like, when I came out of the bedroom, you had, like, all this research that you were just, like, throwing at me. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. We've already, it's already done. I don't need to know how to do this. I already did it. And for me, that's, like, so frustrating. But for you, it's like, well, why are you just taking the first thing that you found and running with it? Like, we could have done more research. And how do you know that's the most efficient? And what if that's not the way not the format it's supposed to be edited in? And
yeah, well, I think again it's using. I like parables and I like analogies, and again, it's the same thing as when we go somewhere or something. It's you'll get in the car and go, and then we get halfway in the general direction and go, oh, I should probably pull up the map and see exactly where we're going. Whereas I've already pulled it up and looked at 3 different routes to see which one's the most efficient, and looked at the menu.
Yeah. You like a vacation itinerary?
Yes.
I couldn't care less.
Right. You'll just show up.
I don't even know if I booked the right hotel.
Right. You'll just show up and assume
everything's just
going to work out, and that we're going to go in and do this. And I have made sure that we've scheduled fun time. But I'm very much I don't like those kinds of surprises. And so, yes, I will look into this and I will see, because to me, I look at it like with a lot of things, from power tools to cars to what kind of iPad or anything like that would be beneficial. And I look at it because like when you're setting up automations in the business, you're looking at this as a way that's going to save time in the future. And that's the way I look at a lot of the things in our day-to-day life, and equipment too, because it's like, yeah, you can get a cheap X, Y, and Z, but it sucks. And it takes more steps, not always, but sometimes those things tend to take more steps to get them to work properly the way you wanted it done than it was to spend the hour doing research and find the thing that's going to do what it is exactly that you were wanting to do.
Sure.
Not to say that they both don't end up at the same destination. I'm just very much, I want to figure those things out ahead of time, and you will create a problem to solve.
I'll run full force into the wall and then cut the door.
Right. And so, yes, we're very opposite in that regard, because then it distresses me out sometimes whenever you are sitting over there just like, I'm so frustrated that I can't figure out how to make this work. Give me 15 minutes, let me go look, and then I'll get back to you. And then 5 minutes later, it's, here, try this. And then a good amount of the time, it's, if that didn't work, it led you to the thing that does. Like, oh, there it is. Mm-hmm. There's that setting. There's that toggle.
And sometimes my technology just needs me to tattletale on it, and you don't have to do a dang thing, but look at it, and so it can make me look like a fool. I get gaslit by my technology constantly. Constantly.
I think you are definitely one of those people that loves or likes the idea of technology, but in practice, it is not your friend.
Yeah, I'm more like, I want technology, but I just want it to do what it needs to do. Yeah. Like, I don't need all... But there's other areas too, though, because like our CRM, all the bells and whistles. Yeah. Love it. And I use literally every single function of it on a weekly basis. Right. But then there's other things where I'm like, why'd you make it so complicated? Right. Like, it needs to do this one thing. Why did you add 27 steps to do this one thing? Right.
Yeah, you have this immensely robust CRM that you just get tickled to death with all the automations and this, that, and the other. But I cannot get you to download the Sonos app for the home and use it. Mm-mm. Because, like, I put a speaker in your office.
You did?
And, well, I took it out since. Because you never used it. It just sat there for a year.
If I can't use it with my voice, I don't want it.
Well, and even if you do with your voice, half the time you don't utilize things on a regular basis, I guess. Mm-mm. So it's funny to me sometimes because, you're like, I just wish there's a piece of technology that would do this. I'm like, we have 7 of them. But you don't care to use, and you've had them for years, and so, and sometimes it's funny too, because then they don't even listen to you. If you're talking to Google or you're talking to Siri, and, you ask it for something, and it just goes,
right.
And so, speaking of.
Yeah, like that.
Right.
Siri, never mind, go away.
Always
she doesn't listen to me.
So, yeah, I mean, I look at things like, I just want things to work. And I think that I've learned, and I mean, partially too, because, like, so back when I was growing up, growing up on a farm, there's a lot of moving parts.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and we didn't live in town, so obviously, if you had to go get a part, it would take an hour out of your day to go get that part and come back.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to attribute some of this to my upbringing and just verify there's what you need, because we're only going to make one trip. And so that, I think, has bled into the way I make decisions, in that you have the part, this is what it needs to do, or you've created a whole schematic because you need this thing to do this task, and you have to build it. So like I need a 2-inch pipe here, and I need a male threaded nipple over here, and then it needs to go to this pipe, and an elbow over here. So like you're creating, whether that's plumbing or something, you'd be creating it. And then it's, then you go to the hardware store in town, and then you build it out there with them. And, you talk to the guy, and he can advise you on how to do this, because last thing you want to do is get back, get it 90% assembled, and realize it was a little bit too small, and so now it doesn't flow.
Yeah.
The water doesn't flow, or the oil doesn't flow, or whatever it may be. And then you got to start all over, or you just wasted half your day. And so I think that some of that has bled over into just my for the most part, everyday life and decision making is, you go into it without any expectation of having to redo it. Mm-hmm. Just do it once.
See, and I'm very much not that way.
Right.
But I think what is good is, like, I'm a really good starter, and you're a really good finisher. And so, like, I can get in and start a project, and then I hit the wall, and you come in and cut the door, so that I can just keep going full force.
Right.
But I have had to realize, like, once I give you a task, it needs to be yours. And, like, unless you ask me, I just need to let you have it. But if I have an expectation of a timeline or a deadline or whatever, then that needs to be given when that task is given.
Right.
And so, like, with the content, now you're doing the captions. And so I have to be very clear that I want them finished by this date every month. And here's the pieces, and here's how many pieces, and for what companies. And then I have to just step out. Right. And so if you want to take the whole 2 weeks to do it, like, I have to be okay with that.
Right.
Even though for me, I'm like, no, I would just work 12 hours and then it'd be done.
Right.
But, like, you want it done to the best of your ability. And so I need to give you the time to do that, so that it's still getting done by the time that I want.
Yeah.
And you'll get faster as you get more comfortable with the tasks.
Right.
But, like, it'd be like you asking me to build a cabinet and then saying I have 1 day to do it.
Right.
I don't frickin' know. It's me, though. I can get it done, because everything's figure-outable. It's going to look like total crap.
But it will not be fully finished.
It is not going to be functioning either. It's just going to look like a cabinet.
IKEA is your worst nightmare, because it's almost all done, and you just have to finish it.
Yeah.
And that, I think, would just stress you out.
It would, yeah. Although I do love IKEA.
Well, yeah. I don't remember from both. But yeah, so, I mean, I think, for me, it is very much, I want to try to do it one time. And I understand that that's not always the case, but even, like, with the captions, when I was going through, I'm trying to do all the edits then and there, and see, like, man, okay, so, we've used this opener ready to launch twice in 2 weeks. So let me bump this one down over here. And I mean, it's not perfect, but when I would try to notice those things, I try to move things around and make sure that we're not using
repetitive.
Yeah, and it's not even about repetitive, but similarities.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's, a week during this month-long campaign that, had multiple questions, I would maybe move some of those around and make it to where it has some questions and some other content, some facts, and not just, man, this week it's all questions. And so I think, yes, I think that's where, and I wouldn't even call it perfectionism because it's not perfect, but it's definitely, I want it to where when you take over, you can just go do your job. You know, it would be like, going back to my culinary days, you know, it'd be like if I broke down a piece of beef, but I left the bone in the middle and just said like, well, I mean, I got most of it done. Well, that's going to really slow down the next guy. And yeah, I did pretty much what I was supposed to do. Like, I didn't do what I was supposed to do to the fullest and 100%. And so that's where I will take longer, and I'm but I am a more methodical person.
Yeah.
When it comes to just about everything.
Right.
And so, as someone who likes to run, not physically, but mentally, I know that that's frustrating. And sometimes for me, it's frustrating because I get brought these problems that and it doesn't happen all the time, but when you run towards something, and you never once read the instructions or never once.
We called them destructions in my house.
Yeah. You never once looked at anything and you just bring me a problem. I can't get this to work. Well, did you at all look at this? Oh, no.
Yeah.
Well, then you should go do that.
Yeah.
And then you can come back and talk.
Well, and I just have to realize, too, like, when we started Dowlery, you were still working a 9 to 5, so you weren't in the business.
Right.
And so I just needed content going out. Like, that was the expectation. It wasn't that it's the best, or that it's the most original, or that it's not repetitive, or that, is it there?
Right.
And now that you're in the business, the quality can go up because there's a whole nother person that can devote time to this task.
Right.
And so it's not reasonable for me to expect, nor is it beneficial for me to expect, that the task takes the same amount of time, or is done in the same way, or is done to the same quality.
Right. Yeah, I mean...
But it's still very frustrating.
Sure.
Just like I'm sure it's very frustrating for you. And I just have to realize, too, like, because we use ChatGPT for a ton of stuff. Like, I use ChatGPT at least once a day, if not more.
Right.
And so we run a lot of our content ideas through ChatGPT, so it can help us with the exact language. Like, we'll have an idea and we kind of push it through. Right. And so I have to realize, like, I've been using ChatGPT every single day for 6 to 8 months. You have just started using ChatGPT on a daily basis. And so I have learned how to communicate with it.
Yeah.
More, I was going to say more better. This is why we use ChatGPT. Mo better. But I know the kind of language that it needs to get me the responses that I'm actually looking for. And so now you're trying to learn that. And some of that needs to be me walking alongside you and helping. But because of the way that you learn, and so that our marriage isn't constantly in friction, like, you need to be able to research some of that on your own, and you need to be able to trial and error it on your own. And there's been times you hit that wall and you're like, hey, it just keeps spitting out the same, like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
It's giving me the exact same response 3 times in a row.
Right.
Then I can come in and say, oh, okay, well, throw this at it.
Right.
And then it breaks that chain.
Yeah.
But I definitely think there's positives and negatives to both. And what's funny is, now that we're talking about it, I actually think it is our fear archetypes coming out. Introducing Lay & Turner Law Firm, Oklahoma's premier boutique law firm. Whether you're navigating complex immigration laws, starting a business, buying or selling property, planning your estate, or facing criminal charges, their dedicated team is here to fight for your rights. With a deep understanding of Oklahoma's legal landscape, Lay & Turner provide personalized solutions tailored to your unique situation. Contact Lay & Turner Law Firm today and let the people's attorney represent you. For more information about Lay Turner, there's a link below this episode. So we read Do It Scared earlier this year by Ruth, I think you say her name is Soukup?
Sika, something like that. It's kind of
Soukup. Soukup. Anyways, It's called Do It Scared.
Very good.
Very good. Highly recommend. And it's about what are there, 7 fear archetypes?
7 fear archetypes.
So, I am what is the word that she used? Basically, I'm so scared of people rejecting me. This is my people pleaser coming out.
Like procrastination or something. Like she used
No, it's not procrastination. It's almost ostracization. So I will walk up
outcast?
and yes, the outcast. I will either not say anything and stand in the corner, or I share too much because I'm so nervous about you rejecting me. I'm just going to make you reject me from the beginning.
Right.
So I don't have to worry about it anymore. Like, it was my choice that you rejected me.
Right.
And so I'm the outcast and I'm the people pleaser because those are both fear archetypes. And for me, those go very much hand in hand. And it's one of the reasons why networking does make me nervous. Like, it doesn't matter how long I've been doing it. When we have there's a quarterly event that happens. It's called Conversation Over Cocktails. And every time that we've had it, I prefer to be at the check-in stand with a job. I don't want to walk around and mix and mingle. Like, that makes me very, very nervous. But the table is a really good compromise because I still get to see everyone. I still get to say hi to everyone. But it's not putting me in that vulnerable state of being rejected. And not that, like, nobody's rejected me.
Right.
It's a
subconscious fear that...
Yeah. And it's not really all that logical.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. And yours was the procrastinator. And the procrastinator is not so much that procrastination is looked at as laziness a lot. It's not laziness most of the time. It's actually stemming from perfectionism. And you're so nervous about it not being everything that it can be that you wait until the last minute to do it. And then there's another side of procrastination, which I don't think you're really this side, but there's the hero complex with procrastination. So I'm going to wait until the last minute, and then I just put in 80 hours to get this done.
Right.
Okay, but you had a month to do it.
Right. That was your choice.
Yeah. So it doesn't make you a hero or any better.
Right.
But I think that our fear archetypes come out a lot in the way that we operate. Because for me, like, I'm just going to run full force into that wall. And when that wall rejects me, like, it was my choice.
Right.
You know, and like you, I'm going to research this because I want it to be everything that it can be.
Right. Well, I can't stand the frustration of when something doesn't work. You know?
And I prefer a little bit of chaos.
Yeah. And so I will spend an hour reading about how to, that's kind of an over-exaggeration. I'll spend 15 minutes reading how to, like, reboot or reset something before I try to reset it. Because if I'm trying to reset, for instance, like, whenever I first got my, first iPhone, for instance, and came from Androids, it was very frustrating for me, just learning a new task or learning how to transfer over all my data. And so now, even though I've been using Apple products for long time, anytime I go to transfer from a newer device, because it is newer and things move and systems change, like, I will watch something or read something on how to transfer data or how to reset or how to do a factory reset, or, like, when I buy a Sonos speaker, if it's secondhand, how to do a factory reset to remove the old system and put it on mine. Because the first time I did it, I spent 20 or 30 minutes trying to figure out, because I'm like, it should just be unplug and push this. And that wasn't it. I was missing literally pushing one other button or holding it down until it blinked a certain color. And, typically you hold something down and you think, I'm going to wait 3, 5, maybe 10 seconds. But it was very specific in, whatever it was. I think it was 15 to 20 seconds. That's not your typical thing. So I was letting up before then. And that was just very frustrating. But then once I watched a 2.5 minute long video that showed how to properly do this, now it's just a breeze to do. And so
some of mine too is I really like problem solving. So I think subconsciously I create problems for myself a lot more frequently than I need to.
I would agree with that 1,000%.
But I do. I like problem solving.
Sure.
And so it's not that I intentionally do it, but between my belief that everything's going to work out, everything's figure-outable, if I hit the wall, it's not going to hurt that bad. And I love solving problems. Like, that's a perfect storm for me to just
it is
bowl in a china shop.
Yeah. And I think that, for me, I also love solving problems, but I like solving other people's problems.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like creating problems for myself. Like, marrying you was my ultimate self-proclaiming problem to continually solve, because you bring me problems.
You're welcome.
To solve. Thank you.
You like solving other people's problems? I bring you problems.
So
I just want to make you happy.
Right.
You know, I just want to please you.
You do so good. But yeah, I mean, I like being there to help people and walk with them through their problem to help them self-realize how to fix it, because they probably already knew, or like, it's kind of like that whole thing of, you know, is this the right thing to do or is it not? And then you kind of walk through it and you knew what the right answer was all along. You just need someone else to kind of walk you through the reassuring yourself. And so I think that I enjoy that part of problem solving, but I do not enjoy
just having
problems. I want everything to work as it should. I want everything to connect and work smoothly. And so, yes, I will typically read through or whatnot to make sure that will happen.
Yeah, like at this point, my MacBook and iMac won't really, like, I run into problems all the time when I'm trying to, like, export movies or export long-form videos and, I mean, honestly, I just assumed I need to get a new machine.
Sure, yeah. Why not?
I'm sure it's something simple, but, like, I don't know. My iCloud doesn't work unless I click a button. That's probably not normal. Like...
Yeah, well, and I think a lot of times, too, it's... Again, this falls under the over-analytical side, but, you know, like, when Apple releases updates, and you have it set on auto-update, and you have no clue when it updates, or that it updated, sometimes when Apple updates stuff, they will toggle things off by default. And so, when you have this problem, instead of just looking it up real quick, like, hey, I'm having an issue, it could be because they just rolled out, you know, whatever version 3.0 of X, and when they did that, now this, you know, AirDrop is off by default, and you need to go manually toggle it back on.
Yeah, for like 6 months, my MacBook would not accept any AirDrops. I had to email. Now, all of a sudden, works.
Yeah.
I told you about it. Works. Gaslit.
And so I think that's one of those things too, where, you know, I know several people that refuse to, like, get on a chat to ask somebody, because, like, you will sit there and try to figure something out, and I will immediately, if after 5 minutes can't figure it out, I am on a chat bubble.
I'll figure it out, or I'll just live with it.
Yeah, I am not going to waste my time trying to figure it out when there's literally someone who gets paid to show me how it works.
Mm-hmm.
So I will utilize them 9 times out of 10 when it comes to things that, you know, I need this to work.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to spend 2 hours clicking through and maybe deleting all the work I've done so far in hopes that I can figure it out. I will open a new window and I will go to chat and figure it out, or have them figure it out, or just tell me, like, oh yeah, let's go here, done.
So, to close us out on this topic, rose and thorn of your personality default.
Poof. Rose and thorn.
Which, just so everybody knows, Rose and Thorn is a game that we always played in my family. It is, and I think it's probably pretty obvious, but just in case, let's over-explain it and make sure a 6th grader can understand. A rose is the highlight or the top thing or the best benefit or the most exciting. So rose is the good thing.
The pro.
And then the thorn is the worst part or a bad experience or something that's not positive.
It's pros and cons.
Pros and cons. Yeah, rose and thorn.
So I think... my con is that, and I think it's different for different people, but for you, I think it's the not moving as fast with decisions as you do.
I'm more curious what you feel your thorn is.
What I feel like my thorn is? My thorn, I think, is that I don't always communicate that I want stuff done, and therefore I get frustrated when people don't take the things as serious as I think they are, or they don't follow the process in which it's going to get the best outcome. And then to me, it's like, you just don't respect it, and so you didn't take the time to learn it. And just getting frustrated by not communicating because of the thoroughness, If you start laundry, finish it. If you start dishes, finish it. And dishes don't just mean, the dishes in the sink. It means wipe down the stove, wipe down the cabinets, you know what I mean? Like,
I literally never do that.
Yeah. That's just, it's one of those things, again, going back to upbringing.
Then I don't think I've ever done the dishes. Not. I've done the dishes, but I've never done the dishes.
Right. And so to me, it's like, we've been married for 3 years, and almost 3 years, and we have been together for 6. Mm-hmm. And, those are just things that sometimes, unless we just talk about it, I don't even know that that's a thing. But, if it's do the dishes, it includes the kitchen. Maybe not the floors and, wiping the refrigerator down, but to me, it's
But I definitely don't like the dishes.
Right. It's no, you've wiped down the stove, the counter.
Because even laundry to me doesn't mean you hang it up.
Right.
It just means that it started getting clean.
Right. Yeah. I did the laundry. I'm you put it in the machine, and the machine did the laundry.
Yeah.
You just moved it from area A to area B.
The accomplishment.
Right. And so, yes, to me, it's and, same thing with pulling up weeds. When you go and you would weed the flower bed, and you just leave the little piles wherever you were sitting.
I just figured they would die and get mowed.
Right. And yes, that's logically sure, I guess. But that is infuriating for me, because now there's these little bitty stacks of weeds over here, and it's ow, why?
I thought some bird would come pick them up and use them in its nest.
They don't use grass in their nest.
Well, that was not a fact I was aware of.
It has to be dried out and more hay material, not wilty weeds.
I was just over here trying to save the environment.
You just use it as an excuse to be not picking stuff up.
All right, Rose?
Rose? I think that typically if you tell me, I think that my personality is, typically if you give me a task or you give me an assignment, it's probably going to be done very thorough, and you may have 2 or 3 different options in whatever avenue you want to take. So, with a recipe, you can I can give you this one that's super complicated and that's wonderful, or I can give you this one over here with comprehensive steps, and it's good, but it's not as good, but it's going to take half the time, half the ingredients, half the skill set, So I typically like to present options. How involved do you want to be? How difficult do you want it to be? Not even difficult, but how time consuming. Because it's with dinner. I can knock a dinner out in 20 minutes, or I can do it in an hour and a half. They'll both be very good, and they'll both do what they're supposed to do, but one is, you can just tell, this was more time and effort was put into this versus
maybe I don't feel with mine you can tell, because if I cook dinner, I'm starting at 2 p.m., and we're getting done by 6:37, and it doesn't taste any different than your 30-minute meal.
Yours, while it's always good, the longer you cook just says the bigger the mess. There's not probably going to be
and I'm definitely not doing the dishes.
Right. There's not probably going to be a huge like flavor difference necessarily if you took 2 hours to cook dinner versus 1 hour, but there will be double the dishes, double the mess.
For me, when I cook dinner, I'm using it as like a form of therapy. So it's the 4-hour experience.
You got your money's worth.
Like, I'm making everything from scratch.
Right. Yeah, and
I'm making tortillas from scratch, even though we have tortillas in the fridge.
Well, and yeah,
and then mine aren't good, and so I still use the ones from the fridge.
I don't know what happened with these. Well, it says to do it the day before. Well, I figured it'd be fine if I did it an hour before. That's not how things work. You can't just force that dough into rising.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think that would be one of the benefits of mine is you're typically going to get a finished and maybe even a polished product if that's what you're needing. But I also get where I want way more information than maybe you were prepared to give, and so then it may be overwhelming. But what about your rose and thorn?
I'd say my rose is because I'm a starter. We get to experiment with a whole lot of different things to figure out what we want, what we like, and what we don't like. And we get to that answer pretty quickly because I sprinted the entire time. Thorn, I know for sure is I hit more walls than what's really necessary because I did absolutely no research. It just sounded cool. Or it sounded fun. Or I saw a need, so I made a thing, or I created a solution. Well, you've never done that before. How are you going to deliver it? I don't know. I'll figure that out. And so I hit a lot of walls because of that. So I'd probably say that's my thing.
I will add on to that and say that I think one of the things for me, thorn-wise, is playing kind of off of that hitting walls is that it pains me to see sometimes because I obviously don't like seeing you in this way, but also it's like I don't know what a normal, like family life would be like for us per se. But typically the way that you work is you will obsess and then you just go dormant. And that could be dormant for 6 hours, or it could be dormant for like 2 days or a day where I'm not going to do anything. So you'll go from start, from dusk till dawn, and you won't stop, and you'll just be held up trying to finish something or trying to get this done or working on it or whatever. And while I think, we appreciate that, there are times when it's like, I wish that, your personality type would allow you to say, oh, it's this time, I'm going to go, hang out or whatever, or I'm just going to call it a day. And maybe I'll start back up tonight, but I'm going to call it a day. And instead it's like, you will work incessantly, not all the time, but sometimes, especially when you find out either, whether that's a new client or whether that's something new, you may spend days just held up figuring this out or working on this. And then you'll have your down day, and it's like, well, our down days don't always fall on the same day. And so sometimes it's disheartening whenever it's like, well, I mean, I can't just hang out because I maybe have stuff going on or there's other things that need done. And so that's a downfall of someone who has ADD and obsessive and just wants to go until they hit a wall and then they just mm-hmm. But I would say, your rose is that, you are very ambitious and you are very, I'm just going to attack this. And we'll know very quickly, more often than not, is this feasible or is this not? And the fact that you will put in that amount of time to get those things done, is sometimes quite remarkable. But, it's sometimes, it's amazing to kind of just see, because I don't get it, and I'm new to kind of this kind of office work, and so, I sometimes find it hard to like wrap my head around, like, what are you even doing?
Thanks for tuning in to the Velvet Ventures. If you'd like more information about who we are, what we do, or you want to follow us or any of our companies, then feel free to check out the link below. Other than that, thank you so much to our sponsors for making this episode possible. See you next time.